When considering the possibility of a Mars or moon base, or even further exploration, NASA has a huge problem to consider. This is the problem of keeping astronauts physically safe. In long-term periods of space travel and weightlessness due to gravity, the astronauts lose significant amounts of bone and muscle density. In fact, a healthy adult on Earth loses about 3% of their bone density over a decade. Astronauts lose more than that in less than a year, and this is a huge problem. This is due to a term called skeletal unloading, and this happens when that weight is taken off the skeleton. This happens both with astronauts that are in low gravity and in bedridden patients in hospitals that aren't up moving around. They're stuck in bed and their skeleton isn't having to support any of their weight. And if astronauts don't exercise, their bodies start to lose bone and muscle. And muscles can be regained through rehab and all that, but bone is very hard to regain back, and they still won't get it all completely back. And this loss of bone and muscle decreases their ability to do work in emergency situations such as a spacewalk. And it also leaves them more prone to fainting, as they are unable to produce the red blood cells they need due to the loss of plasma. Because of skeletal unloading, their body doesn't need as much. However, it still needs just as much. It just does not think so. Now, since astronauts at this time are only spending a few weeks or months in space, researchers have no idea whether this decrease will level off over time or if it will continue to decrease. So we have to prepare for the worst possible scenario. Clay Anderson, a former astronaut, said that on Earth we tend to use our big muscle groups and really don't use our small muscles groups as much, like our forearms. But in space, you predominantly use your small muscle groups but never use your big muscle groups. And this can be solved through a variety of ways. Some exercise equipment that is on the space shuttles and stations, or the treadmill, and walking is a fantastic way to maintain bone and muscle density. The astronauts, if they were not strapped to the treadmill, they'd end up floating away from it. So they are attached to it by a harness that holds them to it, which also they have to push up against when they are walking. They also have a stationary bicycle, which they can use to measure their cardio health. And then they also have something called an RED, which stands for Resistance Exercise Device. It looks like one of those weightlifting machines we have here on Earth, using rubber bands that they can pull against. And they can do squats, deadlifts, anything like that. However, due to the fact that it's a rubber band, it's very hard for astronauts to actually get some work done after a while. However, there has been improvement made to it. It's now known as ARED, and it employs vacuums to do it, and then they can add more weight to this and continue building up muscle. They can do upper and lower body exercises with this, such as heel raises, bicep curls, bench press, squats, deadlifts, anything like that. Anything we do here on Earth, they can do up in space with this device. Astronauts have to do this pre-flight and in-flight. This is a large thing they have to do. They have to train and exercise to build us up so they don't lose near as much. In fact, Clay Anderson only lost about 4% due to the fact that he exercised 2.5 hours every day, 151 of 152 days that he was out in space. The exercise equipment operates using a vibration isolation system, so they don't bother any further experiments happening. It kind of just is floating, and then they work on it, and it doesn't affect the space station at all. And scientists are still thinking of other ways to reduce it. Some have considered doing vibrating plates where astronauts stand for 10 to 20 minutes on. And all they have to do is stay there, but it will help decrease the rapid loss of bone and muscle density. Another solution that they have is to create artificial gravity through a centrifuge. Some scientists believe that we should spin the rocket ship that they are on to create the artificial gravity, while other scientists believe that we should have a centrifuge on it that the astronauts could spend a few minutes on every day, and that would spin them and create the gravity so their bones can be used to the gravity and such. Due to Bill Pawlowski, a NASA scientist, the temporary artificial gravity caused by the centrifuge was enough to overcome bone loss. So, in-flight training is going to be required due to this, but so is some pre-flight training, exercise and all that. This is a huge problem and needs to be taken care of before we send astronauts to Mars, but it is a very simple one to solve.